Okay, looks like we're good in the waiting room. So just a reminder on a few of the housekeeping notes. With Zoom etiquette, we ask that you remain on mute while someone's speaking. Throughout this session, we are actually wanting, if you have a question, to go ahead and answer it to ask it while you have it. So if you want to throw it in the chat while you have it, and then I can read it, or you're welcome to raise your hand below and then read your question when you'd like, but to have a little bit more conversational flow. So we'll go ahead and do questions throughout. And then if you want to, it helps to have your video on when you're asking a question to just make this a little bit more of a connected experience. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to Kylene Harris, who is joining us from the Kansas State Department of Education to moderate this session. Kylene received her master's from K-State and wrote her thesis on expanding the school breakfast programs in Kansas. She is the Team Nutrition Project Director for the Child Nutrition and Wellness Program at the Kansas State Department of Education. Welcome, Kylene.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. I am thrilled to be here and moderating this panel discussion on the local foods and child nutrition programs from the perspective of the child nutrition professional. Before we get started on the discussion, I would like to provide a general overview of child nutrition programs and farm to school initiatives. The USDA child nutrition programs are federally assisted meal programs operated in schools throughout the nation. The programs provide reimbursement for school meals that meet the nutrition standards, and nutrition standards are based on the dietary guidelines for Americans. Farm to School is an initiative to bring locally or regionally produced foods into child nutrition programs. Promotional efforts for Farm to School have included provisions for school gardens, farm visits, culinary classes, and general integration of food-related education into class curriculums. Farm to School efforts are supported by the United States Department of Agriculture through research, technical assistance, grants, and procurement flexibilities. The USDA encourages procurement of unprocessed or minimally processed locally grown foods or raised agricultural products. Farm to School initiatives work to connect communities to fresh, locally produced foods and encourage children and their families to eat healthy. The term local has no requirement for the foods to be grown or raised within a certain area or distance. Local can refer to food products grown or raised in the community, within the state, or within a region. Each sponsor creates the definition for local as it applies to their particular needs and goals. Local products can be those obtained from a local farmer or producer. Local foods can include those purchased from a grocery store, farmers market, food hubs, or distributors who work with local producers. Local products can include products grown on site, a school, classroom, in a container garden, or from a school or community garden. Local agricultural products can include fresh fruits and vegetables, meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and dairy products, and grain products. Fresh fruits and vegetables must be grown using good agricultural practices. They should be close to their natural state, but can be cut, packaged, and or frozen. Canned fruits and vegetables, jams, jellies, and honey are not permitted local purchases in child nutrition programs. Meat, poultry, and fish products can be slaughtered and processed in fully licensed and inspected facilities. The products must be labeled and include a declaration of contents, date of processing, and inspection information. Shell eggs must be fresh, whole, clean, and meet grade B or higher quality standards. They can be obtained locally from a licensed facility that either inspected or applies the egg stamp purchased from the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Kansas is home to many dairy farms that produce a variety of products. Liquid milk must be grade A and pasteurized. Other dairy products such as cheeses and yogurts must be made using pasteurized milk. Local grains can be those grown or milled in Kansas. Grain products can include flours, tortillas, breads, and pizza crust, all readily available as a local food. In Kansas, Farm to School is referred to as Farm to Plate. Farm to Plate broadens the scope and includes all child nutrition programs, including the school nutrition program, child and adult care food programs, summer food service programs, and fresh fruit and vegetable programs. Farm to play activities should be considered for all child nutrition programs from schools, preschools, and summer sites. Schools that have the fresh fruit and vegetable grant program have a perfect opportunity to highlight a seasonal local fruit or vegetable with the information about that product and where it's from. And actually right now, schools can apply for the fresh fruit and vegetable grant. Serving local foods is in-school nutrition programs, and learning about the impact of food on health are central components of the Farm to Play initiatives. Learning about foods through Farm to Play initiatives empower students to make informed choices and teaches respect for the environment. Obtaining locally foods also satisfies the desire to have fresh, minimally processed products on the plate. So Farm to Preschool, also known as Farm to Early Childhood Education, is an extension of the National Farm to School movement. Farm to Preschool includes preschools, Head Starts, child care centers, and home daycares. From Farm to Preschool initiatives recognize that children are in their formative years for developing taste preference and eating habits, making preschool years a great time to introduce fresh, wholesome local foods. I love this picture. It's from Quality Care Services. It is a sponsor for Kansas home daycare providers. And they're one of our 2021 Farm to School Grant Award recipients. Quality Care Services used the grant funds to provide local food kits to providers. And I love that this provider was able to transform her outdoor play space with the garden supplies from this local food kit to help promote Farm to School. So, you wouldn't even be able to tell that this area was actually just a concrete play area. So it really just is amazing how much more inviting and playful this area now looks with all the fresh produce being grown. And our Kansas State Department of Education would like to recognize our 2021 Farm to School sub-grant recipients, displayed on the screen with their projects. Grant funds totaling nearly $80,000 were awarded to 13 sponsors to help complete their proposed projects or acquire tools to help their child nutrition program improve access to local foods. All right, now I am very excited to introduce our outstanding panelists that we have today. Our first panelist is Amy Drudgemeyer, and she's a food service director for USD 231, Gardner Edgerton. And then we have Robin McGlynn, food service director of USD 309 from Nickerson. And joining us from the Prairie Band Potawatomi Child Care, our Hope Adame, and she's the director of early childhood education programs there. And then we have Cecily Wabunsi, and she is a food service manager there. So now I want to invite our panelists to each kind of share a little bit of the background of their organizations and how their farm to school programs began. So we'll start with Amy.
Thank you so much, Kylene, for this opportunity, to everyone for joining us today. I am coming to you from the Gardner Edgerton School District, and we are in Northeast Kansas in Johnson County, the most populous county, and one of the highest income families, those types of things that the families that we serve. However, we also know that our kids need to know where their food comes from, just because they might have some disposable income, or they might be able to purchase wherever they'd like. We really want to incorporate the farm to plate topics and products into our meals. So it's I'm very passionate about it. I grew up as a farming daughter. I'm from a multi-generational farming family out of Southeast Kansas. And it's really important to me, and it became really important to me when I had my boys, who are now 20 and 16, when they didn't even know that potato grew underground, or that chickens laid eggs. That's where the eggs came from. So things like that I realized that if my kids were having that issue, then a lot of kids didn't really know that things didn't just come from the grocery store magically. So that became my sole purpose, and one of my major focus projects in being a food service director in Johnson County, was to really work with my students and my families to provide these opportunities for the kids to enjoy local produce. So you can go ahead, Kylene, to the next slide. So pre-pandemic, we did a lot of different things inside our cafeterias, and we really were very robust in what we offered. At the top left there is our garden bar. That cute little girl with getting her pumpkin, that was a local pumpkin that was grown. We had displayed as our, just in our cafeteria decor, and then we gave them away at the end of the season. We had locally grown peaches and these tomatoes that we roasted and watermelon, and we had a lot of learning and a lot of stumbling blocks that we're going to talk about as we get through this panel that we learned. And I just want to encourage people that it's okay to try something new. So you can go to the next slide, Kylene. As all of us have had to do, we've had to adjust how we serve kids based on the past year of kids, whether they're in school, not in school, when we closed schools last March. And so we really wanted to continue this. Once we got our bearings and got things moving, we decided, since we were sending kits home with kids for meals, we still wanted to incorporate that local produce. And so one of the things we did to switch gears is we started offering recipe kits with our meals. And so you can see there in the middle, we offered a salsa kit, and we gave the recipe to the kids and they got to make it at home. So they got a different experience, but they still got some of that farm to school with our local produce that we included in these kits. So very important to us. I'm excited to be here today to answer questions and talk about it and learn from the other participants that are joining us today. It's always a work in process, and we are hoping to take some of these awesome things we learned during this last crazy year and incorporate them into our new future as we bring back the things that we enjoyed before this last year of our lives. So thanks so much for having us.
Excellent. Thank you, Amy. I just want to point out, I love your logos. Those are beautiful.
I will say my previous job, my previous vocation and training is as a graphic designer.
Oh,
so this is my second career. I worked for a greeting card manufacturer for 13 years and then decided to stay home with my kids for a year and then wanted to do something serving kids. And so here I am 10 years later.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to our next panelist, Robin from Nickerson.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm from the Nickerson South Hutchinson School District, which is in Reno County. And so we've got 4 schools in 3 different towns. So we're pretty spread out on there. We don't have a local VOAG or FFA in our school to do anything with and growing. So we don't have anything like that within the school. So everything that I do with the farm to plate is just directly through our meal service. It's not incorporated. I mean, the teachers have different, of course, learning segments within their curriculum on this, but I don't do anything personally with the kids as far as growing. It's something I would like, growing any produce, I would like to do that, but it just right now in our district, it is not feasible to do that. And it's very hard, like I said, because I'm, 2 of my schools are 20 miles apart from each other. But I've been the food service director here for 5 years, and I grew up in big cities. I'm not from Kansas. I'm not from agricultural, but eating healthy has always been, my kids were probably my guinea pigs on trying to feed healthy. They grew up eating whole wheat. They didn't grow up eating white breads. They grew up eating whole grains. So thankfully, as adults, they still like that on there. So it was really easy for me to incorporate this into the school setting. And what I did is as you can see in my first slide here, is I found out, I searched out all the local, whether it was the flour mill or whatever, local produce, any products that we could get for our school district, and did research on them. I didn't just change over to them. I did research on them, did taste testing with their stuff. But one of the first things I changed was to this Hudson Cream white whole wheat bread, or white whole wheat blend flour. It's a 60-40 whole grain rich. It was developed by Stafford High School entrepreneurship class. They came over and did a demonstration and baked for me, and it's just amazing bread. It makes amazing any kind of breads. And so that was one of the first changes I made. And that's just right out our back door. I used to have to drive about an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and I'd buy 700-800 pounds at a time because I couldn't get it anywhere else. And now a lot of the vendors are carrying that, and the vendor we're currently using carries it. So it makes it a lot nicer. But so that's one of the ways that I've incorporated local is in the wheat or in the flour that we use. And I want to back that up a minute. The school was already using a local, which is Highland Dairy, which most of the state uses. And we're very fortunate where we live. And I got to go over with actually the SNA and tour it. Is just a mile and a half from my office is one of the dairies that provides milk to Highland Dairy in Wichita, where we get our milk from. So there again, our milk is right our back door. It's what the school has always used. And so without even knowing it, they'd already had a little bit in the farm to plate going on in the school district. You can do the slide, Kylie. A couple years ago, let me back up. I don't like buying those big old chubs of meat. Of hamburger. I've never liked it. I never liked it, even the ones we got from the vendors. And so I actually, Sterling School, which Sandy is the food service director over there, I was asking her what she was using, and she told me that she was getting it directly from Ellenwood Packing. And so I contacted them, and we now get our beef and our hot dogs from Ellenwood Packing, and they use only both Fawn and Still meats, which is the hot dogs, and then the ground beef. They only use locally raised cattle. Now, they're again locally raised, could be 200 miles from them, but it's still a Kansas cow. They only produce and sell to the schools cows that have been raised in Kansas. So that was and it's great meat. So I switched all of our beef we get. We also sometimes get our pork from them, and it's locally raised too. It's an hour out our back door. So there again, it's very local to us, and they deliver to us every week or as needed, but they would deliver every week if we needed it every week. I buy in bulk, so they don't. But so that's another way that I have incorporated from another local to us, very local to us, business with I'm not good at talking, so with another locally raised, and processed beef on there. And then the next thing I did, if you want to on there, is our produce. Of course, produce, when you think of farm to market, farm to school, you think of produce. Produce is the big thing. Well, Reno County has a big farmers market, and during the summertime, during the summer food program, I started going down there about 4 years ago and just checking them out, finding out, talking to the growers, finding out where they were from, finding out, what chemicals or pesticides they used, if any, how much they produced, because a lot of them don't produce enough that I could buy from just one, which I didn't want to anyway. And so a lot of in the summertime, I was getting up until 2 years ago from the farmer's market. Well, 2 years ago is when we had all that rain. Nothing was ready during the summertime. So a lot of my farm to school with produce is actually more in the school year than it is the summertime, because I don't have enough haven't for the last 2 years had enough locally grown that I could for our summer, to provide for our summer feeding on there. But Smith's Market is a local grocery store that carries local products. And so I go in there, same thing, check out what they have local, where it's from, and I buy from them. But also Dillon's tries it. I don't know if it's in all areas, but our Dillon's here tries to carry local produce. And so St. John Farms has the most wonderful watermelon, and they're, 40 minutes from us also. And I can get those at the farmer's market. I can get those because he sells directly there. If he doesn't have enough, I can get from Smith's Market, or Dillon's carries them. So a lot, I said a lot of my produce, I have to really shop around to get enough produce for what I need. But those are my main staples, are the Smith's Market, the farmer's market, and Dillon's. And I try and buy what they have locally when it's in season. I do use, and I think I put that in there, I use the Kansas Growing Guide. there's two different ones, but one there's a PDF you can get that's a Kansas seasonal fruits and vegetables. And I use that to plan my menus for what is in season at that time frame. Doesn't mean it's always going to be the best, but that's what I try and plan my menus off of as far as fresh produce on there. Trying to think if there's anything. Do I have another slide there, Kylie? We do not bake all of our bread in our schools. We don't have bakers in our school. When I came into the district, at that time, we only had one person that knew how to bake breads. But we do get what we do purchase bread wise. We do get it from Bimbo Bakeries, which is right out of Topeka, and they use locally grown wheat for theirs. So pretty much most everything that we get that is fresh is all here in Kansas, from Kansas growers sent to the facilities. And so I feel like there is not a day, not counting milk, because that's a given, but there is not, I don't think there's a day that we serve that doesn't have either produce, beef, pork, whatever, that is not, that we do not have something on our menu that is not local, from a local grower or provider on there. I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
That was excellent. And I'm just impressed with your dedication when you first started getting the flour by hundreds of pounds and you would drive and get it. That's some serious dedication, but I'm so glad now that they deliver. So I'm seeing the system's evolving and the demand for locals growing, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm glad that I can get it now because my school van that I would drive was not liking that weight in it.
So, yeah, ooh, yeah.
It was screaming at me.
Yeah, how funny. And also, I really like how you reached out to other districts to learn what they were doing and where they were getting their products. So, I'm the president of our SNA chapter. And like we just had a meeting on our first meeting in a year and a half in person on Monday. And now it's a great time to, with other school districts. I mean, because there was not just locally here. We had where'd she come from? Medicine Lodge was there. And so from all over this, there was, I want to say within 100 mile, we had people, 8-9 schools within 100 miles of us. And that's a great time that we collaborate right then on the things that we do or change or use. And it seems like there's always a conversation on the farm to market or farm to plate produce or anything that one of the school districts is doing without even realizing that that's what they're doing sometimes. That's incredible. Thank you again for sharing.
You're welcome.
All right. And our last panelist, well, we get 2 panelists actually, from the Prairie Band Potawatomi Child Care. We have Hope and Cecily.
Good morning. I'm Hope and I'm Cecily. And thank you, Amy and Robin, for talking about your programs, because it's always interesting for us to hear what people are doing in different parts of our state. We work with a lot of different tribes also in our state and in our nation. And when we're on those calls, we always talk about some of the things that we're doing. So it's nice to hear what's going on in our state as well, in some of our school districts and food service programs. I'm the director here for our early childhood programs, and Cecily's the food service manager. And I just want to say here on the illustration that we put up, we had a family member that had children in our center that designed our logo here. So we always use that with a lot of things that we do. So anyway, we can go to the next slide.
Good morning. We work with our tribal elders and our Potawatomi language program, and they come into the center and introduce the language of the Potawatomi to all of our children in from 2 years up to 6 years, and we really appreciate their help in helping us to continue to bring our language into our education system. We also serve, well, some of the programs that we have in our center are the Head Start, Early Head Start, Child child care development funded program. We also have Prairie Band works with the school district to provide early childhood education to our center. And we have also Part C services. Oh, next slide, sorry.
So tribal nations are increasingly leveraging school gardens as tools to preserve tribal language and a connection to land and culture and a source of food for child nutrition programs. And I want to give a shout out to Olivia Puwamo, who is on this presentation, that are listening to our presentation. I got the information from her. We always work with our community partners that also serve tribal programs throughout our community, because we're all working with the same families. So we like to use resources that they can give to us. This placemat that I have on this slide is from our language department. They helped us come up with the Potawatomi words that we can use in our programming so that we can start helping our children and families learn some of the language that we feel is so important to our education system and to our community and to our identity. So we really appreciate all their help.
So each year we have grown, beginning in the early 90s, we started a small, very small garden of like 4 or 5 plants of our corn, our native sweet Indian corn. And from there, each year we've kind of gradually added more and more space, as well as vegetables that we grow in our garden. And this is a slide is representing some of the participants that helped take care of our garden, plant seeds, weed, and harvest. We all work together to work on our garden. It's really nice.
Right. And one of the things Cecily and I talked about was that we're still learning. Cecily and I have been doing early childhood for, I'm going to say it's probably close to 50 years combined in the early childhood education system for our tribal nation. So but we're still learning. We always learn from each child, each family that comes into our center or that is in our community. And we value that we definitely do not know everything about what's going on in each family. So we learn together, and that is something that we take pride in as well, is we can always learn something new from our families and our community. So these pictures depict some of the children that we serve and a staff member that is helping our children go out. The last slide was of them planting the corn, and this one is a picture of them harvesting. So in the first picture, one of our staff members has her children that she serves in her classroom out in the cornfield, and they're picking corn so that they can shuck it and we can use it like it was intended for our program and our community. And the second slide shows our children doing everything is hands-on with them. We try to help them learn, and statistics, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you all that when children have a hand in growing, fixing, cleaning, cooking, that they're more likely to eat it and understand the importance of the food. So that is our goal, is to help them have that here. A lot of them already have that at home, and we want to mirror that. That's our philosophy here, is we want to mirror in our programming what is typical and important to them in their home. So we really take pride in having to be able to learn and to provide that for our families and our children here in our community.
We also take advantage of other resources that are close to us. Our Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation has a herd of buffalo of about,
I'm not sure.
Over 300 bison. So they produce, or they also have meat that's available that they harvest from our buffalo program. And so we are able to take advantage of those, of some buffalo meat from them. So we don't serve them, you know, as part of our meals that we have here in our center, but we do access the meat. So when we have cultural events or powwows, or like our Thanksgiving meal that we serve with our children and families, we do supplement what we provide to them with the buffalo meat.
I know it says 300 bison in this resource here, but when I talked to our buffalo program getting ready for this presentation, they basically said at this time we don't really know for sure how many we have. It's close to that, but they're calving and they're having new buffalo being born at the time I talked to them, so they weren't really didn't really have an accurate count. So it's a pretty large herd, I'd say. And not only do we serve our buffalo, but we also do the corn and all the vegetables that we grow in our garden. We don't just plant corn, but we plant other vegetables. And although we do follow the CACFP food program, we may add those things that we grow, that the children grow. We let them bring it in and wash it and cut it up or clean it, or be in the process of preparing that food for service. So that way we do meet our requirements, but we are also serving a lot of the food that they've helped grow and harvest. So we really appreciate that we're able to do that with the grants and the funding and the tribe and the support of our community, for sure. So these are some of the pictures that we've taken of our produce.
Yes. You're looking at the squash and the corn that was produced in our garden a couple years ago. We didn't have one last year because of COVID, but we are this year. We'll have corn, squash. We did have some in the freezer. Oh yeah, that's right. We
did end up having it.
doing that. We just didn't have the children involved last year because of the COVID, but we did produce. We did have a lot. We also have watermelon, cantaloupe, peppers, tomatoes,
jack-o'-lanterns.
jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah, we plant whatever we can. Some of it makes it, some of it doesn't. Like we said before, our Potawatomi language is important, and a lot of our families are learning it through their own family traditions, or we are bringing in our tribal language program to help our staff and our children learn the language as well. So this is a picture. We have a lady that's here with us that is a pretty good photographer, so we feel like the pictures that she's taken are really, really pretty, and we like to make posters of them and display that stuff in our center, so that way the kids can have like a little bit of pride in what we're displaying here. Along with their own artwork, we're displaying these types of things too. And thank you all. And if anybody has any questions, we are going to try to answer as best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those pictures are beautiful. And I'm also amazed how much you guys are involved with the community, and how, you know, not only the kids are learning, but you said you guys are always learning. So it's just so impressive, all that you are doing. Next, we're going to move into the panel discussion. Again, please feel free to ask questions in the chat box at any time, and we will continue on. All right, so I'm going to ask the first question, and Amy, I think I'll have you go first again. So the first question for our panel discussion is, how do you connect and build relationships with local farmers and producers?
So the best way that we've found is attending events like this. So the farmer that we work with the most right now is the result of a couple of years ago. I attended an event where I did a little bit of a panel presentation with a farm to table. And the gentleman who we worked with walked up to me afterward and he said, "Hi, I'm Mr. Bolin, and I am really close to your district." And I realized I drive by his farm every single day on my way to work. And it has just really been a wonderful partnership for us to start small and what can we purchase from you now, and then work on building from there. Other times have been through KSDE. It has been, a farmer comes to Barb Depew and says, I have, all these apples left over that I'm not sure I can get rid of, or potatoes, or cucumbers. Do you have anybody that, can use it? And she'll send out kind of an all call, which is wonderful as well, because we can adjust, and we're a large district. We have over 6,000 kids in our district, which is a medium district for Kansas, but for this purpose, it's pretty big. So we can take quite a bit at once, and we can do it fairly quickly with those people that are around us. And those have been some of our, those happenstance moments have been some of our best opportunities to meet local farmers. We've reached out as well. We've used like from the Land of Kansas, that website, some of those things, really just to kind of reach out. Hey, we're interested. Where are you at? Letting them know we do participate in this, and working with them. Even if it's, hey, it's okay if you can't serve 6,000 kids, we can adopt you to our smallest school that only has like 150 kids enrolled. So we have lots of opportunities in lots of ways. I think it's a little scary for a farmer to maybe come to a school, but I would encourage, if there are any farmers in here, go to your local school district and let us know you're interested. That's hard. The hardest part for me is finding someone who is interested in participating. I have a lot of things on my plate as well, that it doesn't always come naturally to, oh, I need apples, I'll just call the local farmer when I can quickly order from my broadline distributor. But I want to do those things. So those, like I said, me being part of those opportunities in the community and in situations and opportunities like we're doing today have led to those relationships that we've been able to, for lack of a better word, cultivate and use to our advantage. We're not anywhere where in my brain I want us to be as far as producing and using farm to school, but we are definitely moving forward with this program, and I see that becoming an even greater opportunity for our district in the next couple of years as well.
Great, thank you. Robin, could you share how you connect and build relationships with farmers and producers?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. The biggest thing I do is I go to the Reno County Farmers Market. I have a good rapport with the produce manager at the Dillon's that's closest to me. And so she does let me know when they're getting anything in that is locally grown. And then also it's the owner of Smith's Market, same thing, he'll contact me. But as far as for your smaller operations of farmers, which I like to support, is I just go to the farmers market. There's a few that are always the same in there that are going to be there every time. But sometimes you might go one Wednesday and there be 50. That's a big number. There might be 20 growers, and the next week, for whatever reason, you might have 5. So it's very rare that I can get produce from the same grower, because they're not producing produce for the size that we do. because of the area that we're at, for the size the school needs. But, like Amy said, is I will take what they have and then incorporate it in just one school on there. I have been talking to, for the couple of years, a local farmer who's interested in providing for our school, as much as we need, but they've had some setbacks and they haven't been able to keep it up and running how they want to. I think they just got a little bit bigger than they were anticipating and then just couldn't keep up with it. But I keep talking with him. I'm hoping to be able to connect one day to say, hey, okay, this year I want to get all my produce from you, or at least as much as you can provide. But it's just talking to people. I'm not afraid to stop and talk to somebody walking down the street that looks like they have, something. So I'll go in and talk to anybody and ask for names. And but your local farmers markets are to me, one of the best places in our area to go and meet farmers, because we are a smaller rural district.
Excellent. I love how you even reach out to grocery stores because they do get local products, and just
Yes.
having them call you, and that's a great place to start, I think. Very good. All right. Hope and Cecily, would you like to share how you make connections with farmers and producers?
Sure. A lot of the farmers and producers that we work with are like, just the local people. We know them personally. They are partners in the community. We've just grown up, kind of grown up here, so we know everybody. And we also meet new people with family events, social gatherings, cultural events. We work with our buffalo program. We also purchase our rice. We serve wild rice at one of our dinners, or both two dinners actually. And we have contacted the White Earth Reservation, Ojibwe tribe there for the wild rice. Also, we have the diabetes prevention program who assists us with the gardening. The EPA, they provide the families here that they provide plants and trees. We have a local kombucha distributor in our community that we have purchased from her as far as the drinks that they provide, the kombucha, not for the children, but for
Families and
staff. We also have our WIC and commodity program that we have access to help with the family's resources. And we also have a local greenhouse that we purchase plants and vegetables and things like that. We had a garden party for the parents, and they came and picked up plants that they want to grow in their garden.
I think that's good. Now we have some fruit trees that EPA had given us a few years back, the apple trees, and we've tried some other berry bushes that we haven't had a lot of success with, but we still keep trying. And yeah, so we feel like we're very fortunate, along with our food distributor that we generally buy all of our food from. We like to incorporate some of the local. And for the kombucha, the lady that distributes that, she is a tribal member here on our reservation. So she is familiar with our families, and she does use local plants to process her drink that she provides. So we think that's important for our families to have access to as well, and to try different things. So yeah.
Wow. I really love your program and just how you've built partnerships. Amazing. And so now we're just going to, go ahead, Amy.
Can I add one more thing?
Oh, please do.
The one thing that I would say is that working with farmers, and I'm sure Hope and Cecily and Robin, you all do the same thing, is for us to just be upfront with them of what we think we might need, what price we can pay, because that's the hardest part for a school, is we have such a limited budget, but we can always find ways to make that work. And the best part about local, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, is that the shelf life is so much longer. When I get watermelon, it's been picked 2 days before versus a week and a half before it gotten shipped across the US. So we're just very open and honest with our farmers to say, this is it. This is all I can pay. Please don't try to sell this to me if this is going to put you in a pickle. And go to a restaurant, or go to a Hy-Vee or a Dillon's if you can get a better price. It's okay if it doesn't work, but we love when it does work. And that's just been the best situations that I've had working with farmers. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay, because then that just creates a relationship that when and if it does work out down the line, that they can come back to us, or vice versa. And we can use it maybe for a special occasion, like you guys said, for your dinners, your tribal dinners, and those kinds of things where you can spend a little more, but still just to get those opportunities in front of our kids.
Excellent advice on building those relationships and just opening that channel of communication and being honest and upfront. Excellent. We're going to move to question 2, and this time, Robin, I'll start with you. How do you navigate the growing seasons and your menu planning?
Due to Kansas weather, the growing season varies every year. Go back into 2 years ago and we had all those floods and things that we would typically have ripe in June, we weren't getting till August. So I have to really watch the weather. And like I said, I'll start going not till about the first week in May. I mean, if the first week in June, I'll go to the farmer's market to kind of see what's there, talk to them and see how soon they think the product will be available that I'm looking for on there. But really following a guide in Kansas, that buyer's guide is kind of your produce guide is kind of the best place. Strawberries are spring. Granted, we don't get strawberries around here like that. I have strawberries at home and I'm just now getting buds on them where Florida's already sold out of their strawberries, so it just depends. But really just knowing what produce is local to your area, what the ripening season for your area is the best way to plan your menu or plan what you're going to incorporate into it.
Very good. Next, or do you have anything else to add? Okay. Next, we'll move to Hope and Cecily. How do you navigate growing seasons and menu planning?
I think it's along the same lines as what Robin just explained. When it kind of reflects back to the last question on the partnerships, not only do we have to plan for our local growing seasons, but we also have to plan for, like in Florida, we know they had an ice storm late in the season, so we may not be able to get oranges or whatever we get from the various distributors that are providing produce to our distributors that come here. But we also use our produce in our garden to do menu planning as well. We don't get reimbursed for the produce that we grow, but we still make sure we meet our requirements. And we talked to and had that partnership with our CACFP program and let them know that this is how we're meeting the requirements, but we're also incorporating nutrition activities in which we will use our produce. So the growing seasons, we have to really be aware when we're planning our menus and when we're planning our gardening, because like I said earlier, EPA gave us some fruit trees a few years back and an ice storm got them. So one of them actually we lost completely, and a couple more it took a while for them to come back. And so it's just like what Robin said, we have to really watch the weather, watch the insects. I hear this year is going to be the cicada year, or whatever those things are called, that are going to come and swarm us for the next few months. So just being aware of your surroundings, your environment, and what you can do. Some of it is out of our control. So yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I love how you use the produce to enhance your menus, and so you can use it when it's available. Amy, do you have anything to add and share?
So one of the things that we do purposefully is prior to this year, we do a harvest of the month. And so we intentionally plan that harvest of the month to be things that we offer once a week to our students in different formats. So example, in August is melon month, and we know we can get local melons in August. They're plentiful and they're fresh and they're amazing. Our kids really enjoy that. So we might move September, October might be apples, November might be root vegetables, things like that, that we know as we're trying to partner with the growing season that's local to do the best we can to get those local products. So what we do with that is, like I said, one day a week, it's on the menu and it's either featured, or if it's, say it's apples, we try apples in multiple ways. So we'll do fresh apples, we'll do an apple crisp, we'll do an apple muffin, we'll do roasted apples. We'll try to get kids to try that same product in multiple cooking methods, just to get them to experience it more than just in its fresh format. Sometimes they're more apt to eat it that way if we bake it into something, and then that just starts that process for them to try it as it gets more into its natural form and state as we get it. But harvest of the month is really important for us as far as planning that seasonally with our growing seasons to use the most amount of local produce during that time that we can.
I love that. And I love that you do it in different forms because kids need exposure and they need to see it different ways. So that's incredible. Very good. Any questions, or does the panelists have anything to add on navigating growing seasons or menu planning? Now we'll go ahead and move to question 3. And this question, I'll have Hope and Cecily start us off. How do you market local foods in your schools?
We invite local producers to come to the center and give presentations or demonstrations to the children and families during planned nutrition activities. We submit pictures of food and activities in our newsletters, Facebook page, and through email. And the pictures are also displayed in our Center for Children and Visitors to see.
Great. We know you have beautiful pictures of your food, so I'm sure that really is great marketing. Thank you. Amy, how do you market your foods in your school?
Well, that was something that was really important to me. And as you mentioned earlier, the graphics and stuff, we did create last year an actual farm to plate logo that we use anytime that we offer a locally produced product in our cafeterias. We made some window clings. They go on the sneeze guards so the kids know this is a locally produced product. We use it on our digital signing or in our newsletters. We also put it on our social media page, and we share that out with our families to let them know, hey, today's the day, and we'll put a link to that farmer's website. We'll share other information that we can just to kind of let them know, hey, this is where it is, or hey, he's going to be or she's going to be at, the local farmer's market next week. So then the families can use that as incentive to, oh, maybe my kids will eat this at home if, they've had it at school and they know this farmer is here, maybe they can meet the farmer. So we use social media, we use the intentional logo and placement and that kind of stuff, really just to promote it to our kids and to promote it to our families.
That's outstanding. I love how you're promoting the local farmers you're using. All right, Robin, do you have anything else you use?
The number one thing we do right now is we use the fresh from the garden poster we get, the dry erase, and I post everything on there and where it has come from, what local grower, or milk, I just put Highland Dairy. But if I like my watermelon during the growing season, I only get my watermelon from St. John Farms. I might be getting it from different local stores that have it if I can't get it directly from him, but I do it that way. Coming up, and I'm looking at changing and updating. I don't have digital marketing right now. We don't have anything digital in our cafeterias to do that, but actually I have a meeting this Wednesday. I'm presenting that to the admin above me to see if I can get that, because I'm upgrading my point of sale system that would allow me to have digital marketing like that. And I would be able to showcase it in each of the cafeterias for the next school year, because I can run scrolls, I can add clip art, I can do, whatever to this program. So I'm hoping that gets approved, because otherwise right now, I love the idea of having it on the menu. Our menus right now are just paper menus, they're manual. They get posted, but I love being able to, the idea that Amy said, where they came up with that marketing that they do and they put it next to on there. And I think that's a great idea. And I'm going to look at doing something like that. We're slowly upgrading our systems to be able to do more stuff like that. And the food service is is not been a priority. We're a small school district and the finances, but I'm slowly incorporating those kind of things. And I actually just visited with the principal day before yesterday about such a thing as, would you let me do this in the cafeteria? Because everything I do, I have to get approved through each principal in the buildings. And he's very excited about the prospect if I can get it approved. So that's what I'm working on doing. And that will be a new way to market what we're doing.
I love that you're always looking for new ways to market. I'm saying we do have a question for you, Robin. How did you get the farm fresh from the garden poster? Or where did you?
You cut out, Kylene.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Where did you get the fresh from the farm posters?
I got those at a training I was at several years ago. I think you can get a hold of your of your consultant and see, because I have one in every school, and they're big. I had some little ones, but I've got some big ones, and I think I got those directly from KDHE.
Yeah, I'd say
But I
reach out
picked
to
them
us.
up at a training I was at.
Very good. And I'll do some research too. We may have some here at KSP.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because they're great
question.
since they're dry erase. They're great, and they're colorful, and they're eye catching. So
Very good. And then someone asked if you could share the Farm to Plate logo so they can print and use. I'm not sure, Amy, are those more specific to your school district?
Yeah, mine was one we designed specifically for our branding to meet across we have a same logo that we use for multiple programs in our child nutrition programs. However, I would just Google farm to, like, you can go to the Farm to School network, those websites, and there are those types of things. And we just sent it off to, like a online printing company that made window claims for us, and just looked, for, like, there's all those different places that can make those types of products. So we just decided to try it, and it worked really well. So again, that's the other thing too, is everything is trial and error. So we failed a lot, and that's okay, as long as you learn from it. But the things that we're sharing are successes, but there are a lot of not successes behind the scenes that we're not necessarily sharing today, but just keep trying. That's going to be my theme for the day.
And
That's great.
So Kylene, something that they can do is if they have if you have entrepreneurship classes, and if you have a graphic design, go to your arts, work within your school itself and see if you have, because you always have students that are working on something with graphic design. Even if you don't have a class for that, they're always doing something, and let them help you with that. I'd reach out to the art teacher for stuff.
Excellent.
I was going to say, our kids are amazing, and the things that they create. I mean, yes, I am classically trained to be a graphic designer, but they can create something on their phone in 5 minutes that looks 10 times better than the 10 hours I spent.
Great. And then someone asked, how has this program been received by your administration and school board? Does anyone want to take that, Robin?
I will answer that. And I'm going to be very careful how I answer this, because we're in the middle of getting a new superintendent. So I don't know what it's going to look like going forward. The prior superintendent we had, I had to be I can't do any education with it. Education is not part of food service. And so I had to be very, very careful not to step on toes, or that's where a lot of failure was because if you don't have that administration, school board, I mean, if you don't have that administration support, then it is hard, because everything you do, you have to get approved by your administration, by your superintendent, at least in our school district, which is the same as most, but you just keep plugging away. And a great example is the grab and go breakfast. I've been trying to do it for 5 years and have got shot down. Well, now we have to do it with this pandemic. And now everyone sees, hey, it really can work. So I get to do it again next year, where before I'd always got shot down by not only the administration, but the superintendent, but by the principals. And now it's like, oh gosh, we love this, so it's just keep talking. No, if you have good rapport with your administration, don't be a bulldog about it. Just wait. If you get turned down, wait a while till it comes up in some way. And, like next year, I'm hoping to have more curriculum based with any of it, because I've never been allowed to before, not even with the summer program. It was very cut and dry. Someone else is in charge of curriculum. I'm in charge of food service. So I couldn't cross over the two. So it does play a huge part in it.
Very good advice. Thank you, Robin. We're down to about 15 minutes left in our session, and we have about 3 questions left. So I think I'm going to combine the next 2 questions. So for the panelists, I'm going to have you describe your challenges and then describe your successes. So we can kind of combine those 2 questions. And this time I'll have Amy start for us.
So challenges are plentiful. They're everything you can imagine. And I think a lot, I know Hope and Cecily and Robin have mentioned a lot of these things, you know, just the growing seasons, and then the weather is unpredictable, or the pests that are coming, those kinds of things. And I think just having a backup plan is important. Being flexible, that's one thing that I've really tried to do, even though we have a very large school district compared to most. I'm really flexible in my menu planning. I honestly don't do a true cycle menu just for that purpose, so that I can, oh, hey, you have apples, let me throw those in there and menu them in the next 2 weeks, or I'm not afraid to change the menu. And my staff is amazing at rolling with the flow, especially this past year. They've seen how flexible they really are, which is amazing, and we're going to capitalize on that. So challenges are a lot, but I think we take them all as learning. You know, like I said, with the whole thing of, oh, I'd love to purchase this person's produce, but they can't sell it to me at the price I need. And it's okay for us to say no, because my goal is not just to get produce in the school, but also to make this sustainable and make sure that the farmer makes enough money to move, you know, to the next season. And not just that, oh, hey, if one time I sold to the schools. I don't ever want that. And I'm very upfront with my farmers when I talk to them the first time. Successes, I think we've had a lot of them. They're little, and I think you just need to celebrate every single small success you have. Like, we tried those recipe kits last summer with our kids, like the salsa kits, and we're like, I don't know how all these are going to be received. Is this just going to be, you know, more compost pile stuff they're throwing out there? And oh my goodness, the feedback we got from our families was amazing. So it's something we incorporated this year for our remote learning students. We've started to, this past semester, we started incorporating a few more of those types of things back into our remote meals as the rest of our kids came back. So there have been lots of all of them, and I'm sure these other three ladies can share many as well.
And actually, Amy, while I have you, I might just have you go ahead and share kind of your closing thoughts and your best advice for creating a sustainable program.
Yeah, I think start where you are. That's the most important thing. I mean, we're all at a point where, yes, we've achieved a point where we're presenting to you today, but we all started somewhere. We all started very small. It's hard to have grand plans and make them all work out. So we started with, like I said, you know, buying, you know, apples that were surplus, or buying potatoes that were surplus. And then it developed into a relationship, and then it's developed into something more sustainable. And don't be afraid to fail. It's okay we've had plenty of recipes in our harvest of the month that my managers came back and said the kids wouldn't touch it. And I'm like, okay, we're not doing that next year. It's okay. We tried it. And so I always tell my team as well that when it's a success, it's on them. And when it's a failure, it's on me. And I take that burden off of them as a director to, hey, you guys tried it. And that's the most important thing.
Thank you. And I think some are interested in your salsa kit, and I may have, if you're willing, just to reach out to them if you want to provide your contact information, or maybe if we have time at the end. But I might continue
absolutely.
on.
I'll just type my contact information in there, and you guys are
Perfect.
welcome to email me, and I'll be happy to share all the different things that we did.
Thank you, Amy. Robin, I know this is quite a few questions, but you want to share your challenges, successes, and then your best advice for creating a sustainable program?
My biggest challenge is it's just me. So I don't have the time. You think in the summertime, and I was just talking to a vendor about that this morning, you think in the summertime, you know, you have all this extra time, and you don't, because that's when you're doing all your, you're running the summer food program, but you're also getting everything geared up for the next school year and every food service director has different responsibilities within their district. It's not across the board what everybody's responsibilities in that district is as far as what's thrown on them. And so my time in the summertime is the biggest thing. I don't have the time I need. By the time a lot of the produce is really ready for me, I don't have time to go to the farmer's market and get it. And I don't have anybody under me. So I have to, so if I can't go get it, nobody can go get it type thing. And so that is my biggest challenge. We take last year I didn't even try last year. There was no way. And going into this school year, I don't even barely have enough staff to run the summer food program. I'm going to be in kitchens cooking every single day, and I still have to do all the administration part of it. So it's really just the time management for me, not having anybody in this particular office but myself. So on there. And then what else did you ask me, Kylie?
And, yeah, sorry. And then your successes, and then your best advice for creating a sustainable farm to school program.
Well, my successes, I think I already, said those, and that's, to me, one of the biggest ones I think is the Ellenwood packing and using the local beef and the local flour on there. But like Amy said, you have to celebrate every small success. You may not even think about it till later on. You celebrate, you just celebrate everything along the way. And in the end, the program being sustainable and being successful as a whole is your success. And then my best advice is to don't be afraid to step outside of the box with your ideas. You're going to have, like Amy said, again, you're going to have lots of failures. I've had lots of failures, and I do exactly what Amy does. I can't even remember now what produce it was. It would have been 2 years ago. And I gave them a recipe. I want you to use this. Oh, the kids hated me, but I took that on me. They tried it. That's all I asked. The staff tried it. They hated it. And so I take that as, okay, that's my fault. We won't do that again. We'll do something different. But the biggest thing, think of new ideas outside of the box, because that's where you're going to have your biggest successes.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Oh, and Cecily, do you want to close us out with your challenges, successes, and best advice?
I think the challenges that they talked about were pretty much what we're dealing with as well, like weather, insects, deer come and eat our produce because we're in a rural area. We're out in the country where we're at, so we don't really have a fence around our garden, and other people are welcome to come and help us, or even get some of the produce, which they have done that before. Definitely don't have enough hands to help with in the garden. I think everybody right now is dealing with staff shortages. It's not just in the school districts. Everywhere you go, people are advertising for employment. So I think unemployment and the lack of jobs and people not interested in working are two different things. So I don't know how we're going to get through that. But the challenges also are basically the availability of some of the things that we have due to the pandemic. That's been a challenge this last year or so, is when we menu plan, we expect that we're going to be able to get some things, but sometimes we can't get that because the availability is just not there, because whether it's staff shortages or they're just out because people are buying it in big bulk. So that is a challenge sometimes. Successes, I would say, listen to what I said was listen to what your families and kids want, but I like what Robin said as well. She tried something with the teachers and they did not like it. So she listened to them and said, okay, we're not going to do that again. We tried it and it didn't work. So we're going to move on. So listen to what your people are telling you, whether it's children, families, or teachers, even distributors, what they're telling you. Don't try to get that because it's way overpriced right now because of whatever. Maybe you should try this. So the relationships come in there as well. Successes are the kids are starting to learn more from growing our own produce and having people come in and demonstrate. That is always a good thing. And then best advice is like what they both said, don't stress on the failures. Meet them where they're at, meet yourself where you're at, your staff, your children, families, and move from there, and always celebrate the end process with your children and each other.
Have a celebration.
Yes.
I like your garden party idea. Very good. Any last thoughts from our panelists? That was outstanding. Great advice. And now, if there's no other thoughts, feel free. And now I would welcome anyone to, if you would like to unmute, ask questions, or you can type in the chat box. Want to leave 5 minutes or so for a discussion.
Hey, from Chef Mike here. How are you today?
Hello.
I've been involved with Chefs Move to Schools for years, since its beginning, and there's a lot of resistance from us to even do what you're saying we should do. Luckily, I have one school here, Sacred Heart in Emporia, that since it's a Catholic school and I'm Catholic, I have carte blanche with the principal. He will support the USDA grants. We did a study here with, we gave out 600 Zollipop packs to the after-school program in Emporia. Do y'all know what Zollipops are? So here's a good point. 9-year-old Elena Morse created a healthier lollipop, reduces oral caries, UK Dentistry School of Science. She's been on the cover of Entrepreneur Magazine. Dr. Oz now supports her product. Yet the USDA said we did not submit how our product was healthy. So they just lie about what's submitted. And we gave out 600 Zollipop snack packs to the after school program here. And we had the permission from the rec center. And then we wanted to do another program and with the school district, public school, no thanks, we're not interested. So that's the resistance that the chefs and challenge face, that we hear all the time, collaborate. I have farms, I do farmers market, I have schools, I picked up leftover food, I bring it to the men's shelter. Oh, sorry, we can't do that anymore. I offer teaching classes to work with the schools. Oh, no, thank you. Any
Great,
feedback
thank
on
you.
that?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for sharing your perspective. We just have a few minutes. We'd like to get as many people to share as we can. Thank you.
I would just like to say, I mean, for farmers, chefs, anyone that's trying to work with a school district, you know, everybody has a unique situation, and we talked about administrative support, and sometimes food service directors can't say yes to things, or there isn't support outside of there. So I would say it's not a, you know, one-time situation. I know I was in a former district that wouldn't have said yes to a lot of the things that I'm doing today. And I moved districts, and, you know, I have partners near me that are like, you know, they don't have time for this, or it's too much for them to handle. And I understand that. I'm in the perfect size district, I feel like, to leverage a lot of things. So I would just keep trying. If you're a farmer, if you're a chef, if you're anybody, you know, don't say that district will say no forever, because people change, and just, you know, administrations and leaders change. Robin's going through it right now. So it's all very dynamic, and there always are going to be opportunities at some point, and it may just not be where you think they are.
I agree. Just don't give up. Just know that when the time is to pull back and the time to pursue it.
Great, thank you. I see a question in the chat here from Elizabeth Berger. Thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us. What can parents do to advocate for these programs?
I would say just reach out. Same thing for parents that I just said for farmers and chefs, is keep reaching out. You know, everybody, it's going to take someone who's willing to take the risks, and it's someone that's going to be willing to go the extra mile. On staff members, you know, like, what if I didn't have a team that was wanting to do those things? That makes it more difficult for me as a director as well. But I would say, as a parent, just form a relationship with your food service team, with your administrators, support it. Again, starting small is really important. If you're willing to help, you know, facilitate a school garden, or even an herb garden we can use in our kitchens, those kinds of things, every little bit counts. And I love when my parents come and say things, you know, how great things are going. Londa is in here. I'm going to throw her out there, but she's a parent in my district, and she shares with me things all the time. And I love that dialogue and that feedback. So just create those relationships.
One other thing I'd like to add to that is we work with a parent board, which is our policy council. And I would assume that all school districts have a school board that is made up of representatives of your community and your district. So talking to your school board members and trying to get on their agenda may help you get more education as far as nutrition. I don't think that there's enough education around nutrition. I'm not blaming the teachers or the administration, because there's only so much they can do with the resources they have and the time that they have, especially right now with the pandemic. But however you can start, just try, keep trying. Like both presenters said before, don't ever give up, and talk to your school board for sure.
I would say too, real quick, in a public school, everybody has a site council in public schools. So that's a great place, like Hope was saying, those school boards go even more locally at that site council, become involved there.
Great. Will you all stick around for one more question? We have one more in the chat. So are there any funding resources you all recommend for schools hoping to expand school garden programs, particularly to compensate school garden staff?
I can lead that off. Just my first thought is Barb Depew. She's our farm to plate director for child nutrition and wellness. And she's the one, because she talks to farmers, she talks to schools, she talks to anyone that wants to talk about farm to plate. So I would say that she's an excellent way to start. And she knows about grants, because right now she's overseeing a grant that schools got funding to help out with anything related to projects related to farm to school.
I'd like to also say that there are foundations out there. I did see a comment from the Sunflower Foundation. I'm not exactly sure who would qualify, but it doesn't hurt to seek out, like Delta Dental, I know does a lot of contributions as far as grants and contributing back. Walmart does a lot of that type of stuff. So, you know, I don't know who would be responsible for that in a school district, but there's grants out there and funding out there that hopefully we can put together and send out in a resource page for those types of, they're small grants. I mean, like Walmart, I think is what, $1,000 maybe. And Delta Dental, I think, puts some things out. USDA, I think there's a website that you can go on their page and see if there's anything that you can qualify for. So, you know, I'm not sure about school districts, but hopefully that is available for them as well.
Thank you. That's amazing. I know different associations too. Oh, Caitlin probably knows more.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, reach out to Kylene, Barb, myself. All of our emails are here in the chat, and we can provide you more information about this. Thank you all so much for your discussion. This was really wonderful. Thanks for sharing your perspectives from across the state.